Yeah, yes, I'll press the button. Yeah. They can all hear me, you know. I'm assuming we're not, well, we are expecting more people, but I'm assuming since it's past 4, they're not coming. Apologies for absence, who will have?
Yes, Chair. I've got Councillor Nick Morfitt, Caitlin Naylor, Maddie Connolly, Diana van der Velde, Paul Rusby.
Okay. Okay, so you should have all had the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 14th of July. Is everyone happy they're a true record? Yes? And does anyone have any disclosures of interests that they haven't already made? No. Okie doke. So, we'll go straight onto the proper meeting, which is all about CAS. An update of contacts with schools and training provision, to receive an update from Caroline Weir, our RE consultant.
Thanks, Chair. So my main work over this past few months has really been on researching syllabus options. That's the big piece of work. In addition to that, been setting dates for networks, publicising these. That's a kind of ongoing sort of issue about getting the message to the teachers. Currently, they are publicised via the e-courier, and some teachers look at that and others don't. So, but trying to drum up some more support for that. Also, just responding to teacher queries about RE and about the syllabus and so on. And then I've had the 2 network meetings over the last couple of weeks. So a couple of weeks ago, we had the primary and special network, where 17 people attended. So that was brilliant, because the last time we only had 8. So that was more than double, which was fab. And we had a really good meeting. And then I had a middle and secondary network last week, and I had 3 who attended. Again, that was great, because the last time there was 0, so that's great as well. We talked about, I signposted them to various resources. We talked about Holocaust Educational Trust and CPD that they might like to do, as well as visits to places of worship and how they might do that virtually during COVID and so on. And we also talked about the Ofsted subject review that came out in May 2021. All of this was kind of brand new to our teachers, so it was good to kind of let them know what's going on in RE nationally. The key concern really coming back from the teachers, though, was when will we have our new syllabus? So I explained to them about what had happened at the last meeting and the fact that we hadn't been quorate, so we hadn't been able to kind of move forward, and suggested that there was a great opportunity for all of them to volunteer to join the SACRE to help us to be quorate. So let them know that hopefully at this meeting we will be able to make some steps forward and then be able to update them next time. I've also attended some SACRE webinars. I caught up on the report writing one for the new annual report pro forma, which was quite helpful, as well as this week going to the applying for a West Hill Award session as well. I thought that would be particularly helpful given that we are launching our syllabus, and if we could apply for some money to do a project, that would be great. It was lovely to see Joyce there as well, and I'm sure Joyce has got lots of ideas of what we could apply for. But I was just wondering whether other members of SACRE had attended any of the other SACRE webinars that are available. So just to highlight, that's a really good thing to do. And Chair, I wanted specifically to highlight this one to you. On the 18th of January, there is a webinar on how to be an effective chair. So from 7 till 8, and that was highlighted to us last night, or when it was Monday night, and said, please tell your chairs about this one. So you've been duly told. So you can feed back to us maybe at the spring meeting about how that went. That would be fab.
Someone puts it in my diary.
Who would I contact to put it in your diary?
I'll do it.
Oh, fabulous.
I'll just need the link for the webinar.
Okay, great. So that will all have been sent out, but we can make sure that gets sent to you again. Okay, fabulous. Okay, so that's kind of update on what I've been up to. I think that's it. Yes, they are, I think, on the whole. There's a lot to be done, and the year ahead is going to be a busy one, I think, but yes.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Very good verbal report. Like I said, it sounds like, you know, people are going to things and things are moving in the right direction. No questions? Okay, we'll move on to item 5, the SACRE newsletter, SACRE News issue 29. Dave, are you going to talk to this, or is it just for information?
I don't think there's anything specific in there, Chair, apart from the training that Kaz has just mentioned. We have paid for the package so that all members can attend any of the sessions, free to yourselves, obviously. So we you know, any of the online training that SACRE put on, any of the members of this committee can attend without any problem. So do please, we'll make sure that the link is in the minutes, but do please have a look and see if there's anything that would be of relevance or interest to you. Otherwise, it's a very useful read. There is a section about the website refresh. I mean, the website is a little more difficult to use than some others, if that's a polite way of saying it. So again, once the website is refreshed, it would be worth committee members having a look at those and seeing what is on there that might be useful. There is a new template for the annual report. Kaz and I will have a look at that in plenty of good time. No, I just recommend you you read it and see what it says.
Excellent, thank you, Dave. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Joyce?
Could I ask about the annual report and your process for dealing with that? And because it has to be in by the end of the year, I believe. Do we always submit one?
We have always submitted one in the past, yes, and we intend to submit one again this time round, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And could I ask a second question?
Yes,
There is a SACRE annual conference coming up, and I wondered if Northumberland would be able to fund Kaz or someone else to go to that. It's in Birmingham in May, and it's usually a very good event.
Yes, we always offer the opportunity for anyone who would like to, for one member to attend. So if there are more than one, then we suggest an arm wrestle to see who's going to go. But yes, absolutely, we'd be happy to fund that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wondered if we had any experience of using the self-evaluation tool and whether it was found to be of any value.
The simple answer is no, Stuart, but if you feel that it would be a useful thing for us to do, then more than happy to have a look at that, yeah.
I think it would be worth having a look at it to see if it has any value, yeah.
So if we add that to the next agenda as an item to look into, no problem.
Excellent.
I believe it is a new tool that's just been developed, which is why we haven't used it before, but I absolutely agree. I think that would be really helpful to use it, yeah. Thanks, Stuart.
Excellent, thank you. I'm not seeing any further hands up, so we'll move on to item 6, which is the Northumberland SACRE newsletter. Dave, are you going to talk to this?
Yes, as you'll remember that we've changed the format of this for this year, partly to reduce cost, because we felt that paying over £1,000 a year to have a printed version wasn't necessarily worth our while. I appreciate that it is printed in your pack, but it is an online newsletter. The link is on the council website where all of the links and documents related to SACRE are. It's publicised through the Courier, and the beauty of it is that it's always up to date, because anything that's sent to me and asked to be added is put on there, you know, within hours usually. I hope it's useful. I hope people are reading it. I'll be perfectly honest, I don't know how many people are reading it. I think from Kaz's research, she would say not many. So it is something that we need to try and promote. There were two reasons why we moved away from the printed version. One was cost. The second was things being timely. We've achieved that with what we now have, but the level of readership is obviously still a potential issue. So we do need to do something to ensure that it's a place that all of our RE teachers go and that they look at probably far more regularly than they do at the moment. If anybody would like anything including in that newsletter, simply send it to me, email it to me, and I can do the necessary to make sure it's up there. Deanna is very good. I probably get something every couple of weeks from Deanna. But if there's anything else that anybody would like, simply send it over and I'm happy to add it.
Dave, the actual online creature, does it have any kind of hit counter or any way? Could that be added? So you know how many people have accessed it?
I don't think it does, but I will go back and have another look.
Thank you.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. With websites, you can normally tell how many hits you've got. I don't know how you do that, but someone in IT would have an idea, I would think. In terms of the content, I think it's very good. And yes, we need to get it out there so people can actually read it.
I mean, that's the thing. It's out there. It's just people knowing that it's out there.
Yeah.
That's the bit. And you know, exactly as Kaz said with the network meetings, numbers seem to be lower than we would like. So the issue is that we try not to send emails to heads and schools, round robin emails, because they get an awful lot of them and they tend to get lost. So by not doing that, we put everything on the e-courier. We talk to schools about the e-courier. We talk to heads about it. We're sending the school improvement team are going around with posters at the moment. Schools every time they visit, one goes up in the staff room to make people more aware of it. So that should be the single source of truth for schools wanting any kind of information. But we're not there yet, so it's continuing with that drive to make sure that they know that's where things are. And we just need to keep chipping away at that.
You might have touched on this in what you just said, but I wondered if we had a record of the email contacts for the various people responsible for RE, whether an email prompt could be sent direct to them to let them know that the newsletter had been updated. And it's worth having a look at.
And again, we don't tend to hold lists of email contacts for each school simply because they change fairly frequently. The list is regularly out of date, and it's become somebody's nigh on full-time job to keep lists of different subject leads up to date. So we're trying to avoid that by making it publicly available and trying to ensure that people know it's there. But there may come a time when we have to go back to that if we're not getting the take-up that we need. I think we will see a large increase in interactions once schools know that there's a new agreed syllabus on its way. When there's a date, when they know there's training available, then I think they'll come flocking then. But and then, you know, that's the time to promote more of these things and make sure that everybody, when we can look in the whites of people's eyes to say, this is where you need to be looking. So hopefully we'll make progress on movement towards that agreed syllabus this evening.
Dave, I'm just wondering if there was any way forward that we could do it when we hold our union meetings. We could certainly, for the NEU members, can promote it amongst the staff that come to the meetings to then go back and tell their RE coordinators about it. So we could tackle it that way. Yeah,
that'd be great. So I'll send you an email with the links, just so you're absolutely sure where they are. But that would be very helpful. Thank you, Tony.
It was just because we've got like full rep lists for all the schools, so if we can send the emails out to the reps and let them know the issue, and then they get forwarded on to whoever, that's going to kill two birds with one stone, I think.
Thank you, appreciate that offer.
Okie doke. So, item 7, the Northumberland SACRE Action Plan, September 21 to August 23. Who's talking to that? Yep.
I don't think the action plan was in your papers. It will be circulated afterwards so that you can see it. It is a new action plan, obviously for this year, looking towards the next 2 years, written by me. I have it on my screen here. The two things that were due by the end of this year were to produce a 3-year SACRE action plan, which has been done as I'm reading it, and to produce a SACRE newsletter for schools, and some of these success criteria were the fact that it was going to be the online newsletter, so on and so forth. So the two actions that needed to be done before this meeting have been completed, but I will ensure that a copy goes out to all members of the committee so they can see it and reflect on it. Joyce, did you have a suggestion about the action plan?
Well, actually, my suggestion's a bit late because I was trying to save you quite a lot of work, Dave, because I thought it might be a very interesting exercise for a small group of SACRE members, one from each committee, to come together and work on an action plan on your behalf, really. And I haven't looked at the action plan for a little while, to be honest, but my memory of it is that it's about how SACRE can be more effective in terms of schools. But I think there's another question about how SACRE can be more effective as a committee itself and when it meets. And the fact that we are quorate today, which is wonderful. It's the first one I've been to, I think, that has been quorate, but it is very, very poorly attended. Now, that's not surprising in a sense, it's December and all the rest of it, but I was interested in whether SACRE members would like to come together and talk about what they might be able to do to generate more activity, more energy, more involvement, so that SACRE becomes much, much more active. SACRE members much more involved in schools, SACRE members working together to support Kaz and her work, for example. So that was my suggestion, that it might help us to be more energetic as a group if we were to do that and reflect on the opportunities and the needs and how we might get on with it.
Personally, I think that's a very good idea because ultimately it's a document written by an officer of the council and hasn't had a great deal of input from committee members. So I'd be more than happy to hand that over to a committee for them to add to, amend as they see fit in the best interests of the subject in the county.
Excellent, that's very good. Looks like we've made some progress there. If we can do that, make sure that happens. Yeah.
So what are we going to do?
Well, this is what I'm looking at, Dave. You said set up a committee.
Well, I'm looking at Joyce because it's a suggestion.
Well, my first question really is, do you think it would be better just to have volunteers, or do you think it would be better to make sure there was at least one person from each committee involved in it? Because how the committee is structured is a really important question, I think.
Yeah, we would need some terms of reference, and then work backwards from there. So write down exactly what its purpose is and what it's going to do, and then from there you can work backwards and work out who should be on it.
Well, I can see you looking at me, Chair, so if you would like me to go away and write a short document setting out terms of reference, structure, purpose, timescale,
Certainly,
whatever,
yeah.
and bring that to the next meeting.
Yeah, that would be
Okay.
ideal.
And I'd be very happy to do that. And if anybody wants to email me with ideas beforehand or volunteering or any thoughts about what it should include, obviously I'd be delighted to do that. So I can send that perhaps about 3 weeks in advance of the next meeting, and then it can be circulated.
That would be
The
excellent.
trouble when you come up with an idea, you always go away with some work, I find.
Quite right. Quite right. Remember to add that to the next agenda as well, just so we have it all sorted out.
Thank you.
Okay, that was useful.
I'd like to just comment on that. I think that that's a great idea. I think it would be excellent if there were members from each committee on that subcommittee, just so that it's representative, so that we have a councillor, so we have a teacher, and so that we have our faith representatives or other worldviews would be ideal. I think, yeah, I think we can ask for volunteers in the first instance, and then maybe encourage those who haven't volunteered to join in.
Go on. To Holocaust Memorial Day to discuss. I take it we're discussing what the
It's
plans are?
simply to let committee members know that there will be events taking place at County Hall. I haven't got the details yet. As soon as they are available, then I will let you know. And one of the equalities team who work through the school improvement team is working in the background on what those plans and preparations are. So as soon as the date and the events are known, then I shall let you know.
Who's leading on that, Dave? Because Councillor Pidcock used to be the main person that sort of led on that.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. That's an Ian Luke in my team picks it up, so he will let me know when things are organised. But yes, it used to be Councillor Pidcock. I can't remember who it was last year.
Yeah, Councillor Pidcock had a friend in Gosforth who was a rabbi. I used to invite him quite often. I believe he came last year as well, which is encouraging. He's very knowledgeable, this rabbi, because he actually studied the Holocaust, and he does tours, actually. He takes, Jewish community, he takes them out to various prison camps, and he discusses what actually happened in those places. A very knowledgeable person. I think we are blessed to have him, as it were, and so close. Although he is in Newcastle, he is a good friend of Bernard, and sadly Bernard passed away. But he has reached out to me on a few occasions because he's been invited to meetings within Seaton Delaval because of Bernard, and so there is that link, as it were, between the rabbi and Northumberland. Yeah, I'm not really. He is. It's really strange to explain, but his focus is the Holocaust, and he studies it, he teaches it, he obviously takes tours. He's well versed in the nitty-gritties, as it were, the actual stories that went on behind, not the famous ones, the ones that you never hear about. Very, very knowledgeable, and I would like to see him back. I would like to see him back in County Hall. And if you get the chance, by the way, to speak to him, he's really a nice guy.
That's a handy contact, Les. If whoever does take on Holocaust Memorial Day doesn't have that contact, then I'm sure you could link the two together.
Yep, I'll certainly mention it to Ian. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. Okay, does anyone have anything further to say on Holocaust Memorial Day? Other than it's a very worthwhile day, and I think it gets very good participation from the county council. Lots of councillors attended. So, go on, Les. Yeah.
Can I just mention something about Holocaust as well? There's a very famous book, I don't know if you know it, but it's called The Haydn Place. It's written by Corrie ten Boom, who was in the village of, the town of Haarlem in the Netherlands, and her family was taken away, and they hid Jewish people within a little cupboard at the back of their shop, which was a clockmaker's shop, and she was the sole survivor of her quite large family. This woman actually tours the world. She's passed away now, but she used to tour the world speaking about the Holocaust. If we can get books called The Haydn Place, and if we can get there is a very famous film out that came out because of this book. The book was written in about 1972, I believe. I actually went to Haarlem and accidentally come across this shop and accidentally bought the book, The Haydn Place, in Dutch, which was really astute of me. But I did work with a Dutch person. Strangely enough, he came from Haarlem, so he didn't know about this, and it's a really fascinating story. But yeah, I think in schools we could share stories like this, not the nitty-gritties of the hard facts of the Nazis and so on, but how individual families were involved, and obviously individuals. It's a bit daunting when you think that she is the sole survivor of that family, and obviously went to America and wrote the book about it. But thank you for that. I would like to see that in our schools. It is a great encouragement, by the way, this book. Yeah.
Just to say that there are opportunities for teachers to learn about the Holocaust and train with either out there or with other people who experience of it. That is all in the newsletter, so maybe people aren't reading it enough because those opportunities are available to them already.
Do we just, as an authority, do we just leave the schools to get on with it when they're doing their own Holocaust memorial stuff, or do we take a more active role?
We provide them with the information and leave them to make their choices depending on what they feel is most appropriate, yeah. Which tends to be the way that we operate with numerous things, is provide them with the information and then leave them. We feel that they're best placed to decide what's most appropriate for their circumstance.
It's fine. I remember when I was at school, we had a survivor came and speak to us in the church at Alnwick, and it was very, 1,000 teenagers in silence sort of thing. But they're fewer and fewer now, so it's difficult to get that experience. But as far as the council's concerned, we want to see a good Holocaust Memorial Day here at County Hall. The 2nd of February, we have here. I haven't been told of any other urgent business unless you've got any, Dave. Yep.
Sorry, Chair. If I can just bring up one point from the last meeting. It was recommended at the last meeting, we weren't quorate obviously, that the humanist representative be added to the membership of Committee A. Firstly, are we in a position now to ratify that as we are quorate? And secondly, to say that as a result of that, I've been back to the Constitution, the SACRE Constitution, which I don't think has been looked at for a number of years, and legal are currently in the process of having a look at that to make sure it's still fit for purpose, and obviously would need to include the fact that the humanist representative is in Committee A if we were to take that decision today. So if we could agree on that today, that would be very helpful.
Is everyone happy to ratify the decision we made at the previous meeting?
Yep.
Yes. There you go.
Can I say how much I appreciate that?
Can I ask about the next meeting? Is it possible for it to be on Zoom, or do we love coming together?
We've got legal looking at that, haven't we, Dean?
Yes, legal are looking at it, and we will let you know in time.
Thank you.
Yeah, there appears to be some confusion because legal council meetings have to be held in person, but then there are some other SACREs that are meeting on Zoom. So where does it fall into? So it's being looked at.
Two things. First, I think it was quite confusing in the SACRE newsletter, where it argued that a SACRE is not a local authority committee, and I'd always understood that it was a local authority committee, so presumably we will get that answer. It was a very unhelpful bit of information in inverted commas. The second is that I wonder if on the next agenda we could have the workforce data, which is provided from information that's given to the DFE about the number of hours that are being offered in schools for pupils on a school-by-school basis in Northumberland. So that data is available, and if we could have that on the next agenda.
Yeah, that's no problem, Joyce.
Thank you.
And yes?
Last meeting, we discussed the idea of paying expenses for mileage. I don't think anything has been done about that. Please, could that be circulated? Please, could we have forms or whatever doing that?
I recall getting an email from county with the forms and everything. Can we send that out again and make sure it goes to the right people?
Thank you very much.
I don't need it because the councillors have their own system of.
Okay, appreciate it.
But I do recall the email going out. Obviously, you didn't get it.
Okay.
But we'll try and rectify that.
Thank you.
There's normally a deadline for expenses, but I think given the circumstances, we could probably push that back. But everyone's entitled to their mileage and sustenance if they have had to come so far, and there are a certain set of rules. End of the meeting, I hand over to Kaz, who runs the next part of the meeting, which is the agreed syllabus conference.
Great, thank you. Welcome to our first Quorum meeting of the Agreed Syllabus Conference. Lovely to have you all. Thanks for coming. So apologies for absence. Those will be, if we can note the same ones as for SACRE, that would be brilliant. So that takes us on to our minutes from our last meeting. Is everyone happy that they're a true record? Joyce?
Just a small point, but it does say SACRE at the top of the minutes, when I think legally it should probably say Agreed Syllabus Conference. I know it says Agreed Syllabus Conference further down, but it wasn't a SACRE meeting, so I think it would be helpful if that were removed.
Great, thank you, Joyce. Could that be amended, please? Thank you. Great. Anything else on those minutes? Everyone happy? Okay. Which takes us on to item 3, the short list of syllabus options. So at the end of the minutes of the last meeting, you'll have seen that we agreed in principle that I would research some options for a potential new syllabus. And just for those who weren't at the last meeting, just to give you the context, that we'd, in the last meeting, almost everyone recognised that writing a syllabus from scratch in the context that we find ourselves is not practical and not a particularly good use of consultant time. When the focus of the role, when I took it on, was very much stated to support teachers of RE. So setting up networks, answering queries, doing training, trying to improve RE standards and help colleagues not to feel alone. And that obviously necessitates me as a consultant being able to meet teachers and spend time doing that. And we felt that making use of some of the great work that other experienced colleagues have who write curriculum as their bread and butter would seem a more pragmatic and sensible way forward. So we'd sort of agreed in principle that we would research some options to buy in a syllabus from elsewhere. Just to note that other colleagues who are syllabus writers will spend a year or more, perhaps full-time, working on an agreed syllabus, and we're not in that position to be able to do that here in Northumberland. So, but we do need to and want to move our schools on from where they are. My experience has been during the meetings that I've had with RE teachers that many of them are unsure about RE's purpose. They're not sure about what they should be teaching, when they should be teaching it and so on, and very much felt that they wanted something that was a bit more user-friendly for them. And we want our teachers to feel confident as practitioners and feel supported, because obviously all of us want our children and young people here in Northumberland to receive their entitlement to an education in religion and worldviews, to prepare them for life in modern Britain. So that's the preamble. So I spent time over the summer and over the past couple of months prior to this meeting researching and reading syllabuses from around the country. And I started with counties that were similar to our own here in Northumberland. So counties that had were quite rural, that didn't necessarily have a major city in them, and maybe less diverse than other places, just to get things that were sort of similar to see, because our demographic, to see if to have a look at similar contexts with a similar demographic to where we are placed. So I started with Cumbria and had a look at theirs, and their kind of statutory programme of study was quite similar to what we had currently in Northumberland, but there appeared to be a sort of lack of clarity about some of the coverage, and actually it seemed that teachers were using RE Today units to fulfil that syllabus, and it was less clear about the non-religious worldviews in that one. Then I went on to look at Norfolk, which has a completely different model, and they do disciplinary questions, so a multidisciplinary approach of theology, philosophy, and human and social sciences. And rather than specifying what content to do, which religions to do, when, or any of that, or which worldviews to look at, they ask teachers to use disciplinary questions. So this half term we'll do a theological question, next half term we'll do a philosophical question or whatever, which was exciting, but I felt was too blank a canvas for where our teachers are currently. And that particularly what I'm hearing from our teachers here in Northumberland is that they want structure and they want guidance, and I felt that that wouldn't provide that. Then I moved on to Lincolnshire. So I've been around the country. Lincolnshire focused on 4 strands that were focused on in every religion and worldview that was covered, and focused in specifically on 3 religions. Again, I felt that that was perhaps a bit narrow in how it was being presented, and would probably require an awful lot of CPD to get our teachers up to where they would need to be. It wasn't clear about whether units would be provided, and that was something that was very clearly received in terms of what our teachers were asking for. So that's Cumbria, Norfolk, Lincolnshire. Then I moved on to Devon and Torbay, and they use an RE Today syllabus, and we've been given RE Today syllabus as you've come in through the door today. They use Model B, which is this one, down there, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. Then I went on to Cornwall, and they also use Model B, RE Today. What I think is really beneficial about that particular syllabus is that it has very specific outcomes. So for it has unit plans, not that it's all done in a scheme of work, but that it's got unit outcomes and then suggested activities that teachers can choose from, and is quite clear in terms of what should be covered, which is what our teachers were asking for. What I also really liked, bearing in mind some of the comments last time from councillors, was that in Cornwall what they've done is they've replaced some of the more general units with Cornish specific units. So where there was a question, which places are special and why, which is looking at sacred places, and they've made that specific to Cornwall. So which places in Cornwall are special and why. So we could do the same sort of thing here, which places in Northumberland are special and why, and we could focus in on the places that we have and the heritage that we have here. I'll come back to RE Today in a moment for the other one that you've been given out today. So I'd done quite a lot of rural there, Cumbria, Norfolk, Lincolnshire, Devon, Cornwall, and then I thought I would do a complete contrast and look at Hertfordshire, which was quite a different model. They have 8 strands, but those 8 strands have to be covered in every single year group. And that's one of the options that you've been given out here. So in many ways, it's a nice kind of progression model, but I wonder whether it is in danger of becoming literally a tick box exercise. So when you go into the pages, you can see where they tick off where they've covered the strand in those year groups and so on. And I felt that perhaps it was just a bit too much and a bit too general for our teachers. And again, not quite specific enough on religion and worldviews and what should be covered. But that is given to you as an option to have a look at. And then back to RE Today, the other 2 that have been circulated to you. So there's Model B, which is in use in Devon and in Cornwall. And then Model A is the other RE Today offer. because I'd contacted them separately as well to ask for samples of their syllabus options. So the syllabus RE Today Model A, which doesn't say Model A on it, but is this one that I'm holding up here. So it takes a thematic approach. So it's got 3 key strands in it, like pedagogical strands, so the ones that they would use for teaching and learning: believing, expressing, and living. And it uses a thematic approach. So rather than a systematic learn about this particular religion and then sort of apply it sort of thing, it has thematic questions. In comparison to Syllabus B from RE Today, it felt like there was slightly less scope for non-religious worldviews and the secularity idea that we were looking at as a small working group. And I personally feel that thematic units work best when there has been some systematic work done beforehand, so they've got the kind of core understanding of that worldview, and then they can compare, contrast and apply and see the similarities and differences once they've got a bit of knowledge. If it's all taught thematically, I would worry that yes, we want them to see the shared roots of worldviews and religious traditions and so on, but that they potentially will end up with just a bit of a mishmash and not really knowing what particular worldview traditions believe. So that's Model A. And then Model B, back to that I've sort of talked about briefly, it goes for a more systematic model, but also has thematic units as well. So it gives you, I think, the best of both. So allows the children when they're younger to access sort of more concrete teaching on particular worldviews, and then enables them to apply those to thematic questions. And so in early years, it's all sort of thematic. And then in Key Stage 1, it has a mix of systematic and thematic. So they'll learn about, for example, Christianity or Christians and Muslims, and then later in the year they can do a unit about special places, for example, and look at some Christian places and Muslim places, or whatever it is that they've chosen to do. What's really good about that is that it has the clear outcomes, as I said, and the unit plans. It also has some special school information in it, which again was something that we were lacking in our current Northumberland syllabus, and was something that we had wanted to rectify, and particularly in the working group we talked about that we really needed to address special schools, and so that's available in the Model B. It's in the extract that you've been sent, and that was the one I was saying about how Cornwall had tailored, and perhaps we could do that same sort of thing. And it uses a pedagogical approach of beliefs, impact and connections. So what do people believe, and those obviously will include non-religious views within that. Then what impact do those beliefs or values that they have on someone's life and how they live? And then what are the connections that either the pupils can make with their own lives, or perhaps between different worldview traditions, or whatever. Okay. So that's what I've been doing. In terms of making a decision about what to send to you, we've got these 3 options: Hertfordshire, RE Today Model A, and RE Today Model B. Obviously, I'm not a member of the Agreed Syllabus Conference, so I can't make a decision, but I can make recommendations. And so this was the short list after that. So I did a long list, and then these are the short list. If I were making a recommendation, I would probably recommend, or I would definitely recommend one of the RE Today options, and I would go for Model B myself, which has a mix of the systematic and the thematic, because I feel that it gives that support that the schools are asking for, and it also allows us to write our own appendices that are specific to Northumberland, which was the thing that the councillors last time particularly were anxious not to miss out on. Okay. That's the sermon over. Any questions or comments? Yes.
I think that what was start, we only just got these at the start of the
Yeah.
meeting, so I don't know. It's difficult to have been able to compare them so thoroughly, but you've given a very good summary of them, so I'm quite content with that. I don't know what other members would think. But I'm very keen on the getting the Northumberland angle in there, you know. I mean, I'm the county councillor for Bamborough. We've got the accessing Haydn project in you can go into the crypt there, and it's got all the history of Christianity in Northumberland, and we've got a lot of that. So it would be a shame not to have that in our syllabus. That would be my view.
Thank you, Guy. Yes, because I was interested last time when councillors were commenting on about wanting to have those Northumberland specific things and what they felt in our current syllabus was specific to Northumberland, because, for example, Lindisfarne isn't mentioned anywhere in our syllabus. So I would be looking for us to be able to move forward and make it more bespoke to Northumberland. In terms of the practical note, I'll talk about that in a moment, but of course I wouldn't be expecting you to make a decision here and now, not having read them, and we can talk about how we'll do that in a moment. Yes, Chris.
With the Model B, an awful lot of the units there come from the Understanding Christianity project that RE Today produced.
Yeah.
Now, the Understanding Christianity project, massive folders, each one of those questions there, what is Easter matter to Christians? There's a whole mini booklet which has got lots and lots of lesson prompts and ideas, very stretching. So how would we resource this kind of thing in every school? Because would it mean buying the Understanding Christianity book folder thing for every school, then adding all the extras? How? Any theories?
Oh, great question. Thanks, Chris. So yes, the option is there for schools that want to go deeper with their Christianity to do the Understanding Christianity training and buy that in and whatever. However, the syllabus can, I have checked, the syllabus can work without that.
Right.
And so within the pack, you'll have seen that there's the one-page overviews of units. What they've done for those Christianity units is do one-page overviews for those questions that are the same as Understanding Christianity, but then those schools, for example, church schools that want to go deeper can then invest in Understanding Christianity if they want to. But you don't have to have done the training. You don't need the resource. Great question. Sorry, I forgot to say that. You don't need the resource in order to be able to do the syllabus.
Good.
On that, though, Understanding Christianity, for those of you who aren't aware, is a RE Today resource that lots of schools across the country are using, particularly church schools, but lots of community schools are also using it. Lots of schools here in the Northeast are using Understanding Christianity. I'm just for full disclosure, I'm a Understanding Christianity accredited trainer. But just to note that RE Today have been given a large subsidy for community schools to access the training and the resource at a much reduced price. So there is a £150 subsidy for any community school that wants to go through with the training. So they would only pay £60 rather than £210. That would be open to schools if they wanted to do that. I wouldn't be pushing that on any school that doesn't want to, but for schools who want to go that bit deeper as they get into it, then they would be welcome to do that, but they don't have to do that in order to teach the syllabus. Yes.
Just to come back on the historical matter, I'm the county councillor for Holywell. Well, it's Holywell. The strange thing is we can link up with the historical side, can't we, in the history lessons as well. So we can, I think we're quite unique here in Northumberland. This is the cradle of Christianity for United Kingdom. We should celebrate that. So why don't we create a day of celebration for Christianity within our schools? And bearing in mind that, that a lot of the changes that took place in history actually were from this region and Whitby. So, we should really celebrate that, shouldn't we? We should create a day within schools where we can look at the greatness of the Christianity in in our local area. So, and well, yeah, and the thing is, what's there historically isn't that far away. The students within my area, they could go to the well and learn about the friars who came from Tynemouth, who dug this well, and so on, built a community. And then you got Bedlington as well. That was part of the Diocese of Durham. And even Blythe as well, with its salt pans. That was owned by Durham. So, you know, we could do a historical side and show the students of our culture, because our culture in Northumberland actually comes from that. It's just a thought.
So there's someone else volunteering for a project tonight. That's great, thank you. Joyce?
One of the things that's happening next year, I think it's next year, the Lindisfarne Gospels are coming, and there is a lot of work going on to support schools, which may deal with some of the things that you're talking about, because the North East Resource Centre, which Carenza Passmore runs, is in the business of doing a lot of work around scriptures, not just in relation to the Lindisfarne Gospels, but scriptures across other faiths as well. So I think there will be a lot of resources around the Lindisfarne Gospels being made available to our schools by somebody else. So that might save us some work, and well, I'm sure you'll be distributing information about that when it becomes available, which hasn't happened yet. There are things I like about Syllabus B. I very much like the way in which Key Stage 2 is divided, which might sound a very small point, but if you're going to have good primary RE, what's appropriate for a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old are totally different. So treating that as two separate sections, I think, is a very good structural basis for primary RE. I very much like thematic RE, so I'm very pleased to see the themes that are there at the end. Can we assume, Kaz, that the aims that are set out in Model A would be the same as the aims for Model B or not? Because I think even though teachers often never look at the aims and purposes, that is what determines what a syllabus is going to look like. So how the aims are set out is absolutely crucial. And one of the things we did agree at the last meeting was a sentence which was going to form the criterion on which our judgment would be based. And that was about worldviews and religion. And glancing through some of, I think, Model A, it's not enough just to add and worldviews onto religions. We were asking for something that was bigger and broader than that. So I think it might be very useful to go back to that criterion that we set out and look at Syllabus B in particular in relation to that. But the preamble stuff, the purposes, etc., can we assume that they would be the same as Syllabus A? Or, in fact, does Syllabus B have a different set of aims that are set out in a different way?
I was making the assumption they were the same as Syllabus A, but I can definitely check that.
In which case we read part of A and part of B, and then we'll have a much more whole picture of what is possible.
Joyce, I'm just looking at the Cornwall agreed syllabus here, and page 9, the page that talks about the purpose of religious education. They are the same.
They're the same,
They are
right.
the same.
Okay, thank you, Dave. That's very helpful.
Thank you. One of the division of Key Stage 2, again, is something that attracts me to it, in the sense of, particularly given our context with middle schools here, there is significant, I would say, issue at the moment with people being clear as to what will be covered in year 5 and 6 and what's covered in year 3 and 4. And so that transition is not always good in the sense of, because the same religions are listed to be covered all the way through Key Stage 2 on our current syllabus. So we're not clear whether progression is happening and whether it's just repetition and whatever. So that, again, attracts me to that, and the fact that it's a spiral, so the children will return to things that they have done earlier and build on that. So yeah, I think that will help with the middle school transition that isn't totally clear at the moment.
The other point is obviously there's no Key Stage 4 or post 16 here. So are we proposing to write our own or see what Cornwall has done and see if they've come up with something useful? Because a syllabus should cover all statutory school ages, and we can't assume the GCSE will be taught, and the numbers of GCSE candidates seems to be going down, especially now that short course RE is disappearing from schools. So it's no longer the stopgap that people have used in the past.
Yes, thank you. When I looked at all of the syllabuses that I reviewed, none of them had anything specific for Key Stage 4. They all were working on the assumption that schools would do the GCSE course. Obviously, we all know that that's not the case. That's not the case here in Northumberland. I had a conversation with Northumberland Secondary School last week that said that no students in their school did GCSE RE, and that Key Stage 4 statutory RE was covered by 1 hour a fortnight. That also included relationships and sex education and PSHE, personal social health education. So 1 hour per fortnight for 3 subjects. So we can't make an assumption at all that GCSE is being covered, never mind RE being done at all properly. In terms of that, yes, what I would suggest we do is perhaps to speak to Durham about the work that they did. So it was funded by Culham St Gabriel's, and there was a working group of teachers came together to come up with some questions and kind of unit overviews that could be used in statutory RE in Key Stage 4 and in sixth form, and those are publicly available because it was funded by Culham St Gabriel's. So that's something that we could potentially use, and then we could potentially also get our secondary teachers together and ask them what they would like, because I know that they don't have certainly not full cohorts of GCSE, and some no GCSE coverage at all. So I absolutely agree. Yes, I couldn't find a syllabus that did have something, so we'd need to source something.
I think our previous syllabus had some quite good suggestions for that key stage as well, stuff on RE in the media, so we may not have to reinvent the wheel. There could be something there that we could perhaps update, but look at as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Joyce.
Joyce, there's 1 page in the Cornwall syllabus. So the Cornwall agreed syllabus is 164 pages long, and there is 1 page on RE for 14s to 19-year-olds, which sets out the statutory requirements and a section on what do students gain from RE at this age, and that's the entirety.
Okay, I'm going to take that as the end of the questions on what we've just been talking about now. Obviously, you haven't had a chance to read them, unfortunately, before the meeting. So I wouldn't expect people to be able to make a decision this moment on it. This is a really important decision that we're making for our county, and we need to have time to read and digest and consider. In terms of how, for those of you who haven't been in an agreed syllabus conference before, in terms of how it works, so you know that there are 4 committees, so we've got A, B, C and D. Each committee would decide among itself and has 1 vote per committee. So everybody in that committee would have a conversation and say, yes, we all agree we want this syllabus, and that will be their vote. And so the 4 committees would have those conversations among themselves, and then there would be a vote from each committee. So one individual doesn't have that kind of sway. It's a committee decision. So obviously you haven't had a chance to read it. We also don't have very many folk represented tonight either, but what we were going to suggest, and I'll look to Dave in a second, was that we'll give you an opportunity, obviously after the meeting, to read the 3 options and to inwardly digest and all the rest of it, to email me or Dave with any questions or comments or concerns or whatever about any, and then we'll look to making a decision. How do you want to do that?
I think if we could have comments, queries, questions and decisions by the end of next week, that would give me time to pull them together, look at any questions and queries, and then be able to present back to everybody. What the views of the 4 committees were. Does that sound okay?
Are members happy with that as a way forward?
So does that mean, so for example, my committee, of which I'm the sole representative here today, have I got to get in touch with all the others and say, hi folks, what, you know, this is what's been presented, I'm happy with it, but what do you people think?
We can do that on your behalf
Okay,
if you would agree to be the spokesman as you're here.
okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, history is made by those who turn up, yeah.
Absolutely right. So yes, I think if you're happy to work it like that, then that's the way I would suggest that we do it, because your representation here means that you're more than likely to get back to me at the end of next week with an answer. Is that right, Tony? Yeah.
One thing I would suggest, though, when you're looking at in certain local interest in Christianity with historical periods, is to look at the history syllabus, because it's now all chronologically ordered. So by the time they get to year 6, they should have covered Anglo-Saxons, and then when they get to year 7, they're then looking at the life before the Norman conquest and then the life after the Norman conquest. So it would have to be in Key Stage 2 that they did the Northumberland Saints, or the history around Bamborough, or anywhere else really. So just if you were going to insert about Northumberland Saints, then do it in year 2, because lots of schools are now doing cross curriculum work, where the curriculum leads all work together to tie up the syllabus, so that it's got a more of a flow to it, so that when they're doing about weather and geography, they're doing about changing states and science, that sort of thing. Just to think about it.
Great, thank you, Tony. And just to say, and I know that's not what you're communicating, that I would be very wary of wanting to make sure that any units that we do write are RE and not history. That I don't, we need to be careful that we don't fall into teaching history, as we need to make sure we've got that RE content. And so that complements really well if they've already done it in history, and they've learned about the local area, then we can focus specifically on the RE elements within that. But yeah, absolutely. And again, I will be looking to, it was SACRE members, the councillors in particular, who were very keen to have a Northumberland focus, so I'll be looking to them and other members of SACRE to help with those sections as people from and who live in Northumberland. That'd be great.
Are we going to have the same procedure for all of the committees that we're suggesting for the Church of England? Because I do think it's important for every committee to have a proper detailed conversation, and I think it would be very difficult for us to agree a syllabus that isn't actually finished. So we might agree that syllabus B is our working model, and then we would take it forward and include whatever additions, changes, and then have another decision looking at a final document. So I see this in possibly a number of stages, but certainly 2 stages. But I would be very interested in talking to other members of Committee A about their feelings and responses to this.
So that would be ideal. If I can nominate you to look after that committee, and exactly the same for you to get back to me at the end of next week, having spoken to your colleagues, and I will contact those colleagues for each committee to say, this is what we've agreed.
Well,
and that would be step 1.
Right. I was going to suggest a Zoom conversation, a bit like the agreed syllabus meetings that we had, to decide a time. I mean, it's the most difficult time of the year to be doing all of this, obviously.
And that is a little bit, we have been a bit hamstrung by the fact that documents haven't been out well in advance of the meeting. You wouldn't need me or Kaz there,
No.
So I think if I can outline that idea to committee members and then nominate one person from each committee, those that are sitting here present today, to try and organise that, then I think that would be wonderful. Yeah, and hope that you can meet with your committee
Yeah.
colleagues before a week on Friday.
Does everyone who's here have the capacity to do that in terms of a Zoom, able to have set up a Zoom meeting and that kind of thing? Yeah.
I need it to be later rather than sooner. The later, the more time I've got to read the documents and absorb what they say and the implications of them. So if the deadline is a week on Friday, then, you know, I'd like at least a week of that to be able to consume the material.
And the reason for giving that sort of length of time is that that's the sort of time you would had the papers come out at the right juncture before the meeting. So, yeah, absolutely, I understand that, Steve.
Okay. Were you going to say something, Joyce?
Well, I was just looking, I mean, I would be happy to set up a Zoom meeting on the morning of the 17th of December, for example, Friday morning, for members of Committee A, if I'm given email addresses so that I can invite people to that.
So perhaps, Dave, if you could contact all members of the committee who are both here and not here, and let them know this is the plan, and that, and then make sure that each of the folk here has the right email addresses. So if we'd said that Joyce would convene Committee A,
Yeah.
and Chris will convene Committee B.
That would have to be on the 16th, I think.
So, and then Les or Guy, who's going to... Okay, so Guy, you can do Committee C, the councillors, and then Tony, are you happy to convene the teachers?
Yeah.
Fab, great. And so if Dave, you contact and outline what's happening, make sure that everybody has a contact. I know they've all been sent out now, just this afternoon, and then make sure that the 4 folk here have the right email addresses so that they can contact people. Thank you very much.
Tomorrow morning, I have my first Christmas party of the season tonight.
Yes, Guy.
Have you got a brief written summary of what you've just told us, of which one you're recommending and why? Because I think that would be helpful for the members who aren't here.
Would you like me to make a note of the reports and send it out separate to...
Yeah.
I can send it out to all committees if you want.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be great. Thank you, Rebecca. Fab. Okay, were there any other questions on that? Is everybody as happy as one can be about the way forward? Yeah, okay. Well, fabulous. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you for making us core it. That's brilliant tonight. And it's great. It feels like we're beginning to make a bit of headway and a bit of progress with this. That's great. Look forward to hearing from you. But if you do have questions and so on, please do send them over and we can talk about them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it. That's the end of our meeting. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Do you need to make a quick escape after all? I know.
To elected bishop.